Good morning, everybody. We are now live. It's 10 o'clock. Welcome to County Buildings, anyone who does happen to be online. Countryside Rights of Way panel. Have we got any apologies?
Good morning, Chairman. No, I'm not in receipt of any apologies this morning.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2. I'm going to ask for any declarations of interest in accordance with Standing Order 16.2.
Not to my knowledge.
No. David? None? No. No, none from me, so no interests. And item number 3, you've got the minutes in front of you from the meeting of the 8th of October. Can I take them as true, correct? Thank you. And item number 4, on the agenda for the week, we have had item number 4 on. Unfortunately, we've had a late submission of information which has got to be obviously processed as is only right. So we are withdrawing that item, which is the application for addition of an alleged public right-of-way from Ivetsey Road to Belhurst Lane, Wheaton Aston. So that's being deferred to another occasion, another meeting.
Could I just ask for members' information, how long ago was this application first submitted? It seems to me that with the delay that we've got in applications, it's probably 10 years old. To have late information provided, one almost feels is almost something we shouldn't consider. I appreciate we have an obligation to consider it, but the age of the application makes me feel that people have had enough time to object or support or do whatever they're going to do. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, David. I'll pass on to Claire in a second, but and I've been approached several times about some of these applications which are probably 10 years old, because the people who originally applied possibly aren't around anymore. So we've almost got to start the process again. But Claire, if you want to just sort of give the officers...
I'm unsure, this isn't my application actually, so I'm unsure exactly how old this application, but I'll suspect it's over 12 years old. I do believe in this case, in addition to the additional evidence that is going to be provided, another landowner has come forward that hasn't previously been consulted. So obviously that does further complicate things. Obviously everybody needs the chance to be consulted. I do appreciate your position in terms of allowing people time to respond. We have set deadlines now with people being able to respond by a certain deadline, so we don't have to pull items from panel. It's just unfortunate in this case that we've got an added complication with an additional landowner.
Could I just ask, you've suggested that because of the age of some of these, that the original applicants are long since gone. Is it a possibility that all of these old applications we could go back to and invite them all to resubmit? Or having once submitted them, they're there and they can't be removed?
Claire, have you...
That is the case, basically. Can't be removed.
Yeah, once they've been submitted, they need to be dealt with, so they exist as they are. I mean, we can make checks. There's a cost implication to finding out who the actual landowners are, etc., and applicants. But unfortunately, yes, the matter still exists, whether the applicant wants to take it forward or not.
Okay. Thank you for that. And just to clarify, when I say people have come back to it, it is normally the local member that's approached parish councils and such like, and they've said actually Mr. Smith's no longer around, and it's now Mr. Smith Jr. or Mrs. Smith Jr. So I do understand that the problems, and we are running a fair and even-handed process. So I think we should carry on as we are doing. Item number 5 is the Wildlife and Country Act 1981, and it's an application for the upgrading of public footpath 34 Grindon to a restricted byway. Who's taking this? Oh, sorry.
So before we start, Chair, have we had anything from the local member about this at all? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, members. So this is a application to upgrade public footpath 34 Grindon to a restricted byway. The application was submitted by Mr Brian Smith on behalf of Staffordshire Moorlands Bridal Ways Group. A copy of the application is attached at Appendix A. And so in support of the original application, the applicant submitted various old maps, and then in 2020, Miss Turner, also of Staffordshire Moorlands Bridal Ways Group, submitted some further historical documents, including the Grindon Tithe Map, dated 1839, Waterfall Tithe Map, dated 1846, and a Grindon Parish Record Card for Public Footpath 34, dated 1952. So of the maps, there is a Carey map dated 1787. This shows a route along the line of the alleged route. One of the other maps appears to be an Ordnance Survey map and depicts the alleged route as a single dotted line. The remaining 3 maps are not clearly identified, but they do all depict a route running along the line of the alleged route. There was no key with any of the maps, and therefore there was nothing to indicate the status of the route or the nature of any rights over the route. Therefore, the maps don't really add any weight to the case other than to support the physical existence of the route, which is not in question. So the Grindon Tithe map shows the alleged route as a carriageway separate from adjacent land holdings. So the route connects to carriageway 273 in the north, which is recorded as a road. The route continues in a southerly direction to Oldfield, and it then becomes the alleged route and forms part of plot 318, which is recorded as a house with road. So the Tithe Awards Index shows that plot 273 is recorded as a road and the owner is Thomas Brandon. Plot 318 is recorded as a homestead with road and house. The Waterfall Tithe map comprises the award index only, and it records the alleged route as a public road with the owner recorded as the Surveyor of Highways and Matthew Redfern. Further maps include the Bartholomew map of 1902, which records the alleged route as an indifferent road which is impassable. The Bartholomew map of 1924 also records the alleged route as an indifferent road and states that it's passable by cyclists. The National Parks and Access to the Countryside Act 1949 extract from the statement accompanying the draft definitive map records public footpath 34 as a road used as a public path. The Grindon Parish Record Card states that public footpath 34 has been used by the public without dispute for 30 years. It's also recorded as a cart road and footpath and is used as a cart road or a footpath. So when the application was initially submitted, the landowner, Mr Simpson of Oldfields Farm, submitted an owner-occupier evidence form and advised that he considered the route to be public as a bridle way and that he had seen people using the route on foot and on horse. He advised that he was also obliged to maintain the fields under his environmental agreement. We also received comments from Grindon Parish Council when the application was initially submitted. They advised that they were in agreement with the landowner and did not wish the footpath to be upgraded to a restricted byway. They stated that it goes through a working farm, and so the presence of horses or vehicles could constitute a safety issue. We also received comment from the Byways and Bridalways Trust, who confirmed that they supported the application, although they stated they would prefer the route to be given full byway status. The Border Bridalways Association also responded, saying that they couldn't offer any help with evidence for the application. The Commons, Open Spaces and Footpaths Preservation Society responded, stating that they didn't have any evidence to support the claim. However, they didn't object to the upgrading of Footpath 34. So what is not in dispute is the fact that the route is a public highway. The question relates to the nature of the rights over it. So the purpose of tithe documentation is to identify land subject to paying the tithe. So the map accompanying the Grindon Tithe Award shows the alleged route as a carriageway separate to adjacent land holdings. So the route appears to be a road as it connects from 273 and 318, which are both recorded as roads. What's not completely clear from this particular award is whether the route at this time was considered public or private, but it is supportive of the route status being higher than a footpath or a bridle way. In relation to the Waterfall Tithe Award, as already stated, only the index was provided. So it refers to plot 145, which is recorded as a public road, and with the owner being the Surveyor of Highways. Again, this is supportive of the route having higher rights over it than a footpath or a bridle way. It also could be assumed that between 1839 and 1846, from when the Grindon Tithe Award was completed, the route possibly could have been in private ownership, but it appears by 1846 it has become adopted for public use. Moving on to the Bartholomew maps dated 1902 and 1924. Again, they do provide some supporting evidence of the route having status higher than a footpath or a bridle way. Both maps show the route as a carriageway with red dots running along the length of the route. When reviewed in conjunction with the keys provided with the maps, the route on both maps are classified as indifferent roads. The 1902 map in particular refers to the route as a road but not a motoring road. So this suggests that the route was accessed by vehicles, but possibly by non-motorised vehicles, which again would be supportive of the route being classified as a restricted byway. In terms of what is kind of classified as a restricted byway, this would include access for people on foot, people on horseback or leading a horse, and non-motorised vehicles. So the Grindon Parish record card states that public footpath 34 has been used, as already stated, by the public for approximately 30 years. And it's also recorded as a cart road and a footpath. So this again adds some weight to the route, possibly having higher status than a footpath, as it also makes reference to a cart road. So there are three types of public highway that are recognised in the common law, and this still prevails today. So this is a footpath for pedestrians, bridle way, riding or leading a horse, plus pedestrians, and cartway, which in today's language would equate to a carriageway, so which would be for horse and cart, or probably nowadays a vehicle. So basically, as stated, the parish record card is very suggestive that the route was being used by people on foot, but also by vehicles, potentially horses and carriages. So again, this helps support the contention that the route would have the status of a restricted byway. As already stated, the remaining maps support the physical existence of the route, but not the status of the route. On circulation of the draft report, comments were received. A joint letter was received by a number of landowners affected by the application, and a copy of that is attached at Appendix N. The basis of their objections was that they are of the opinion that the upgrade would be damaging both environmentally and ecologically, and it could be detrimental to the nature of the path. They have also raised issue as to whether the path would be wide enough for horse riders and potentially dangerous for children who use the path in the area for carrying out their Duke of Edinburgh awards. They also advise that there is evidence of animal movement up and down the banks and the trees lining the path. Also included at Appendix N is a copy of officers' response to the comments provided by the landowners. So as stated, it's not our intention to belittle any legitimate concerns, but the courts have decided that issues of safety, suitability, obstructions and wildlife concerns cannot be taken into consideration when determining Section 53 applications. So whilst the landowners' comments were noted, they were advised of this. Also, following circulation of the draft report, Gwynton Parish Council also provided comments on the draft report, similar and in support of the landowners. So again, they raised concerns about the fact that the track would lead up to a working farm and the potential disruption that could cause. Again, these comments were noted and responded to, copies of which are attached to Appendix M. So basically, in terms of the Section 53 application, what needs to be proven is that on a balance of probabilities, therefore that it is more likely than not that the existing classification of the route on the definitive mapping statement is currently wrong. So each piece of evidence on its own would probably not be supportive enough to upgrade the current status. But when all of the evidence is reviewed together, the either-or documentation and Bartholomew maps do indicate that the route has the status of a road, which would be suggestive that the route has status higher than a footpath or bridle way. Also, when this is reviewed alongside the parish record card, the evidence supports that the route was not only used as a footpath but also by carts, which supports the contention that the route will be used by non-motorised vehicles and therefore supports the status of restricted byway. So therefore, as stated, when the evidence is all reviewed together, it provides a wider picture. So therefore, the evidence in totality, when considered, it just tips the balance that the status is supportive of being a restricted byway, and therefore which your officer's opinion that the route should be upgraded to a restricted byway. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for a comprehensive report. I found it quite interesting, the different situations that are on that route. The questions from the floor.
It's more comments than questions. Excuse me. On the balance of probabilities, I definitely go with officers' recommendations. And the reason behind that really is concessionary footpath. There's nothing in law that says what a concessionary footpath is, so it can't be a concessionary footpath really. The evidence says it's been used for a minimum of 30 years. Footpath could cause safety issues. That's not a matter we can discuss really. We have to make the order one way or the other and then perhaps go for a diversion order if there is safety issues there. There's no challenge to the fact it's been a highway for years, so once a highway, always a highway. Then we go to 1939, the Greed and Tithe Awards, stated it was higher than a footpath, and the bridleway is higher than a footpath. 1846, adopted for public use, so the private part of it ceased. So any allegation it's just a concessionary footpath means nothing really, because it's now saying it's for public use. 1902, a route for vehicles but not motor vehicles. Again, it's saying it's a bridleway. Then for really go into parish records, it's for carts but not motor vehicles. Again, it's a bridleway. So I go with officer's recommendation, say that we should be upgrading this to a bridleway, and that's my reason for going with that.
Is that a proposal?
That's a proposal then, yes.
I'd just make the point that when we're talking about cartways, obviously those were the major highways in the rural areas a long time ago. And as a farmer myself, we do have, I've got a bridleway going through my farm, and as long as it's properly policed and looked after, it shouldn't be a problem. And as has been said before, there's always the option for the landowner to ask for a diversion. The evidence in front of us, as far as I'm concerned, is strong enough that we've got to go with this case. We've heard nothing from the local member. We've had a proposal from Councillor Snape, seconded from Councillor Smith. So we'll have a vote on it. That's unanimous. So thank you for your comprehensive report, and we'll move on to item number 6, which is exclusion of the public. And I do have a little speech here to read. And the chairman moves that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, which involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph of Part 1 of Schedule 12A as amended of the Local Government Act 1972 indicated below. So we'll just wait now for the webcast to finish.